Talk Black 360. Six shot.
Just bury me in the ocean with my ancestors that jumped from the ships. They knew death was better than bondage.
Uhuru family, Tino Blaine King here, pioneer of Black pragmatism. Today's Six Shot, I want to talk to you about a previous post of a podcast that we did on November the 7th. It was entitled ADOS Reparations, Black Brits and Harriet. And to that post, one of our followers made a very interesting comment. And on this Six Shot, what I want to do is address that comment because it definitely was deserving of some pointed response. So first things first, let me play what the portion of that particular podcast was that generated the comment. I believe in this topic, I'm also going to be able to provide a solution for some of the dysfunction that is occurring inside of our Black community. And the thing that I'm going to suggest to you that's going to help us to solve that dysfunction is a paradigm shift. Okay, so in that clip you saw that the suggestion was a paradigm shift. To that suggestion, this was the comment that Mr. Andrew Powell made. The comment reads, Andrew Powell, I watched the video and I think it's too simplistic to simply say Black people change your paradigm and then all will be well. It is very idealistic. I think for a very long time, the only people who really felt that all Black people were the same were African Americans. Then we had a rude awakening. Black Brits, Caribbean Blacks, Africans notoriously looked down upon African Americans, unbeknownst to African Americans. Okay, at this point in the comment, he goes on to some personal experiences and then concludes with saying that after Blacks have fought for these particular rights, all other immigrant groups have come and take advantage of these rights, and now they're actually looking at African Americans like you guys are slow and lazy, or like we're slow and lazy, and they're wondering why we can't actually take advantage of some of the opportunity that is in America. Now, that second part of that comment, I will say that is largely conjecture. I'll address that in this manner. When people tell me that they've had some minimal experience or they've heard that, Africans on the continent think of African Americans as slow or lazy, or they look down upon African Americans, and even Blacks in the Caribbeans, same thing. When people tell me that, I usually respond in this manner. Okay, so there's 1 billion Africans on the continent. How many of them have you actually spoke to get this information? And usually from that point, we could kind of discard the rest of that foolishness that is being spewed, not just by Andrew Powell, but so many people, are basically basing this stereotype off of things that they've heard other people say, and very few occurrences where this has actually been the case. But that's a whole nother podcast in itself, because there is a reason for that. And am I saying that no Africans feel that way? Absolutely not. Of course, there's Africans that feel that way. But are they representative of the larger group of Africans? I would conclude not. I would even go as far as to say that most Africans don't even think twice about African Americans. And actually, that's part of the problem. But with that being said, the next thing I want to do is I want to take 3 specific concepts that I want to share with you that also needs to be a part of an African-centered curriculum. And I want to take these 3 concepts and use them to address this particular issue. Okay, number 1, it takes a generation to change a paradigm of people. So if we're talking about it being oversimplified, then absolutely Mr. Powell is right. It is oversimplified because it was put in the context of, a larger solution. But specifically, when we talk about a paradigm shift or changing the paradigm of the Africans in America, yes, this is a generational process. So this is why I put forward the platform of Black liberation. And let me read that to you. Black liberation is collective generational efforts of several diverse groups of Black people to make white supremacy obsolete by building an independent system of empowerment which evolves through organizational structure and pragmatic thought. So you'll hear me repeat that particular piece several times as you listen to my podcast and a lot of the lectures and teachings that I might put out. So the second concept, of course, is this concept that I actually got from some of our ancestors, and my father in particular, as an elder in the community, used to tell me this as well. He said, there is but one life. And what does he mean by that? It took some time for me to actually understand what that actually meant. And here we go. When you say there's only one life, it's a simple concept. It's that you are a continuation of the life of your ancestors. And then when you pass, your descendants are a continuation of your life. That is one continuous life that we have to learn as African people to put inside of our paradigm. It is somewhat antithetical to the European concept. There's a beginning and an end. Also inside of that concept, there's a firm understanding of individualism. That is not a most beneficial way for us to think as a people. So that is one of the components inside of the paradigm that we're definitely going to have to change. We have to start looking at the fruit of our family trees as other ethnic groups, immigrant groups do. They come in with this fortified paradigm or concept of who they are and what they're here to do. And it is America's objective to take that away from them and to ultimately assimilate them into the American structure. That is exactly what has happened to us, and it has happened to us to the extremities, because not only were we assimilated, we had our history and our roots kind of beat out of us, so to speak. So we have to change our paradigm to include the concept of one life. That is a continuation throughout our genealogy. And then lastly, we must build inside of this paradigm, we must build an antithetical paradigm for our natural abilities to start working in our favor. What do I mean by that? So this European paradigm that we exist in, that we accept, and that we are working inside of, is designed to assimilate us, to actually remove those things that protect us and allow us to advance. And we've got to take this concept that I continue to espouse of an African-centered curriculum and begin to teach this to our children and have our children to develop with this foundation. And in generations, we will begin to shift the complete paradigm of our people. There is a gentleman by the name of Clarence 13X, and he came out of the Nation of Islam, and he began to teach a philosophy known as supreme mathematics, and the 5% nation, or the nation of gods and earths, was his brainchild, so to speak. And inside of that philosophy, there were some principles that I thought was very interesting. But one of those principles that pertains to this is he would teach that to build, you must start from the root, because at the root is the foundation of knowledge. So as we try to pull things that we have developed inside of this European paradigm, then we'll always end up running in circles. We've got to go back before we can go forward. And it's very important that we do that generationally. History class is in every curriculum of school age children. However, that history class is not conducive of African people's success or even African American success. That history class is designed specifically to lay out the history of the European as it is most beneficial to the European. Okay, so please comment, like, and share. And I want to leave you with this last note. This is your six shot. With the newly created and agreed upon paradigm, we will learn that our differences are our greatest strengths. And we will also learn to encourage our people to work in their normal state, which does not require everyone to do the same thing at the same time. And when we begin to work in that natural state and we understand this, then we will begin to develop and change our paradigm. And this, in fact, is Black Power. Ashe?
Six shot.
Just bury me in the ocean with my ancestors that jumped from the ships. They knew death was better than bondage.